This is the Yankees Postcast, your instant game reaction for the New York Yankees. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome back. Busy day for the Yankees. It started with a trade. They acquired third baseman Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies. More on that coming up. The Yanks then proceeded to go out and get clobbered by the Phillies. First of three in the Bronx between the two. Of course, they met in the 2009 World Series. Well, that went the Yankees' way. Tonight did not. Phillies win it 12-5. The two teams combined to hit 7 home runs. All 4 of Yankees' home runs were solo shots. Yikes. All 3 of the Philadelphia home runs came with men on base. Because of the loss, the Yanks are now 5.5 back in the division. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Berman. If you're a New Yorker, you might recognize my work. I've spent more than 2 decades in the biz, everything from TV to web to radio. Glad to have you aboard. You can follow me on X as well. At Jay Berman, Jayberman. Welcome to the Locked On Yankees postcast, both on the Locked On Yankees YouTube channel and the Locked On Yankees podcast feed. The postcast gives you a place to chat after every single Yankees game. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, by the way, is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your very first purchase. As we said, a busy day for the Yanks.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, so the Yanks make the trade for Ryan McMahon, a name we've heard quite a bit over the last couple of years in regards to being connected to the Yankees in a possible trade. Now, he's obviously struggled this year, and he's got 2 years remaining on his deal, 26 and 27, at $16 million per. Now, it might turn out to be a bargain. If he turns out to be great, it might be a disaster. At the very least, Ryan McMahon is an upgrade at third base from Peraza and Vivas, so kudos to Brian Cashman for getting that job done and filling a hole at third base. Now, the problem is with the bullpen. Tonight was an absolute disaster, as was the defense, but mainly the bullpen, and we'll get right to that. The Yanks and Phillies combined, as we said, to hit 7 home runs. All 4 Yankee home runs were solo shots. In fact, the first 3 of them came with 2 outs. So really, Yankees doing a lot of damage with 1, nobody out, nobody on, and 2 outs. Obviously not enough. Meanwhile, the Phillies, 2 2-run home runs from Kyle Schwarber and a 3-run shot from JT Realmuto. So they hit their home runs with men on base. Big difference. It's like a 2-pointer or a free throw as compared to a 3-pointer. Really a big difference, and it showed tonight. As for Schwarber, the second home run, the second bomb, gave the Phillies an 8-5 lead, and they never really looked back. In fact, they scored 10 runs in the final 3 innings, 4 in the 7th, 2 in the 8th, 4 more in the 9th, all 10 of those runs coming off the bullpen. Yikes. Will Warren went 5 2/3, 2 earned. More on him coming up. He actually pitched pretty well against a pretty good lineup. Struck out 7. Did allow the home run, or at least the first home run, but only threw 89 pitches in 5 2/3. The combination of Tim Hill, Luke Weaver, Ian Hamilton, and Scott Effross, again, folks, combined to allow 10 earned runs tonight in 3 innings, really 3 1/3. They allowed 10 earned runs. So right then and there, you're thinking, hey, happy to get Ryan McMahon an upgraded third base. However, if Brian Cashman thinks things are done, well, he's got another thing coming. Bullpen help. Send it ASAP. It got ugly. In fact, as we said, the bullpen entered play tonight with an ERA just above 4, ranked 20th in baseball. And considering how bad things have been of late for the Yankee bullpen, I was surprised to see this number. I thought the ERA would be higher. I thought the ranking would be lower. Regardless, both those are going to change tonight because of the performance from the bullpen. As we said, 4.07 ERA is a bullpen coming into tonight. They allowed 10 earned runs. So that is going to skyrocket. And as we said, they did so in just 3 1/3 innings. The ranking of that bullpen ERA certainly going to go down as well. All right, so the Yankees, it was a typical Yankee night. Lots of homers, terrible bullpen, terrible defense. Will Warren, an error on a possible double play in the second inning. Now, he struck out the next 2 batters, so that didn't hurt him. However, the Paul Goldschmidt throwing error in the 7th inning got the ball rolling as far as bad times for the Yankees. It allowed the run to score. The next batter was Real Muto, who hits the long home run off Luke Weaver, who was, we don't know. He was the closer not that long ago, and he was a valuable closer. Now, it looks like he's losing his grip on the 7th and 8th inning. Just cannot keep the ball in the ballpark. Stat to prove it, Weaver, in 15 innings pitched over the last several weeks, has allowed 7 home runs. 7 home runs allowed in the last 15 innings he's pitched. Simply put, it's garbage. It's not major league potential. It's not major league stuff, and it's absolutely killing the Yankees. So, Yanks hit long balls, got pretty solid starting pitching, awful bullpen, awful defense. 2025 in a nutshell for the Yankees. They now have 167 home runs, by far the most in baseball. Worthy of note, the second spot belongs to the LA Dodgers. For what it's worth, again, Yanks have the most home runs in the major leagues. They've got 6 players with at least 15 home runs, most in the major leagues. But they've got huge holes. As we said, the defense, which will get better with McMahon, specifically on the left side of the infield, and then the bullpen, which can only get better with different faces, different arms, different people, different players. Something has got to change. And considering Brian Cashman didn't wait very long to go out and get Ryan McMahon a week before the deadline, well, maybe there's some urgency now to upgrade the bullpen. By the way, those 2 errors for the Yankees, the Warren error, which would have been a double play, and obviously the Goldschmidt error, which from there, everything snowballed. That's 9 Yankee errors in the last 4 games. 9 errors in 4 games. They're just embarrassing themselves. And it's sad because it's a good season going down the toilet. Now, yes, there have been holes throughout, but you're getting a landmark season from Aaron Judge. Max Fried up until recently was amazing, a Cy Young contender. So you're wasting good seasons out of these players. It's frustrating. It is absolutely frustrating, and I can't imagine what Aaron Boone is thinking. Now, 5.5 behind the Blue Jays in the division. Blue Jays beat the Tigers again, 6-2. Toronto's won 18 of 22. And now, believe it or not, folks, the best record in baseball belongs to the Toronto Blue Jays. And they are now 5.5 up on the Yankees. Now, let's be realistic now. With roughly 60 games to go, 5.5 games seems not necessarily insurmountable, but a difficult task. And that is with a difficult schedule ahead for the Yankees. 2 more with the Phillies, then 4 with Tampa. Now, admittedly, Tampa of late has been struggling. However, they always give the Yankees a good fight, and that's 4 games with the Rays. Rays can definitely get back in the race with a good series against the Yankees coming up on Monday. Again, that's a 4-game series. But again, if things don't improve in those areas, it's infiltrated the right side of the infield now. Paul Goldschmidt with a terrible throw. The pitcher, Will Warren, with a terrible throw. So again, these things are rearing their ugly heads on a nightly basis. If the bullpen doesn't improve, if the defense doesn't improve, which it will with the addition of McMahon, as we said. But again, things have got to get a lot better quick, or else the Yankees are staring at one, a wild card berth, and a much more difficult road throughout the American League playoffs. Now, that doesn't mean they can't win a round or two or three or whatever. Absolutely can, because especially with Detroit slipping of late, none of these teams are worlds better than the Yankees, at least not lineup-wise. And if Max Fried can return, the pitching isn't awful, especially if Luis Gil is coming back relatively soon. But again, things have got to get better in the bullpen. They've got to get better with the leather. And if they do, Yanks can make a run. If they don't, they certainly will not. Now, is the team good enough to secure a wild card spot? I believe so. At the very least, Yanks will be in. The Yanks are, unfortunately, now dealing with the hottest team in the sport in the Toronto Blue Jays, who stuck it to them in consecutive series in Toronto. And now they're beating everybody else and putting distance between themselves and the Yankees. Again, 5.5 back in the division are the New York Yankees. All right. Tons of stuff to get to, including the specifics of the McMahon trade. And we have injury updates on key relievers. And wouldn't it be nice to get several of those guys back? We'll do that all coming up next. All right, have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Well, maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, next up is Game Day Hue. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue. For Yankee fans like me, this one hits the mark. Game Day Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. I love rocking it on the golf course. It's subtle, stylish, and I can still rep my team. I've worn mine to tailgates, tee times, and just out running errands, and I always get compliments. And it's not just hats. How about their split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything? Right now, you can get 50% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals. So now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. All right, we are back. It's a very interesting example of why we do what we're about to do. That is this.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, because it's always fun to do. As we said, it's always an interesting experiment, especially when the Yanks lose, and they lost tonight, and they lost ugly. Again, 12-5 the final score. Kudos to Will Warren, who seemed to be, with a few exceptions, really the only Yankee to bring his A game. 5 2/3, 5 hits, 2 earned, 3 walks, 7 Ks through just 89 pitches. Probably could have gone farther. And speaking of Warren, His ERA is 3.02 in 11 starts at Yankee Stadium this season, so he has certainly not been the problem. 5+ innings and 2 runs or fewer allowed in 8 of his 11 starts at the stadium. So again, game ball to Will Warren despite the 12-5 loss. All right, we're running out of time, so let's do this quickly. The specifics of the Ryan McMahon trade: he goes from the Rockies to the Yankees. Yankees send back 2 minor league pitchers, Josh Gross and Griffin Herring. Meanwhile, the re-imaging of Mark Leiter Jr.'s leg went well. Fernando Cruz could get back on the mound sometime next week. Ryan Yarbrough was scheduled for a touch and feel bullpen session today. Never heard of that. No idea what that means. But again, relatively good news involving both relievers and starters as they slowly get healthy. Still waiting on Luis Gil, who's just a couple of weeks away. But again, we got the specifics of the McMahon trade out there, and now we have updates on Leiter, Yarbrough, and Cruz. As for the probables for the next 2 games, backs up against the wall for the Yankees. Not an easy 2 games. Marcus Stroman, Ranger Suarez on Saturday. Remember, that's a 1 o'clock start. On Sunday, it'll be Rodon and Zach Wheeler. What a pitching matchup for the finale on Sunday. That's a 1:35 start time. As we said, after the Phillies leave town, Tampa Bay comes to town. That's 4 games: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Huge games with Tampa Bay before the Yanks hit the road for Miami and Texas. Again, 12-5 the final score, and what a disaster of a night. Again, I mean, how many times are we going to say it over the last couple of weeks, really the last month, perhaps the last 6 weeks? The Yanks have these disaster games once or twice a week. Somehow they're still 56-47 and 30-20 at home. But again, they're going in the wrong direction. All right, thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also want to mention our partners in crime at Locked On Yankees, Stacey Goudsoulias and Brian McKeon. Again, all the stuff at Locked On Yankees is there, so follow, subscribe, and enjoy. Yanks lose 12-5. Right back at it tomorrow. And of course, who's going to be with you immediately following Saturday and Sunday? This guy, yours truly. Can't wait. Until then, have a great night.